Hello, we have some people we don't recognize here who aren't identified. If your phone number ends in 960, will you tell us who you are? You'll need to, there you go, thank you. Who are you?
Ken, this is Bill Waterhouse with
Okay,
that phone number.
all right. Do you also have we have a screen that says Bill, is that you also?
Very low tech operation. I can see you on the computer, but to communicate, I need the phone.
Okay, so you are Bill on the computer and 960 on the phone. Okay, thank you. And we
You're
see
welcome.
Bonnie Ham and Bill Mellett, Cheryl Barassa, Paul Bankowski, and let's see, Mark Pitts and Susan Balmer. Mark and Susan, I just had a question because I'm doing homebound vaccines. Has Ruth gotten her vaccine shots or she's able to get out and do those things?
Hey, Ken, we're actually getting on Friday at the senior center. We're going to have the first one.
Yes,
Okay.
the whole family.
She's with me on my
Yeah,
Zoom.
I'm here, Ken.
Okay, yeah, I mean, when we're not doing a clinic on Friday at the
Yeah.
center, we're doing it at the school.
Yes, at the school, yeah. Mhm.
Okay, well, that's great.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for
Well,
asking. Yeah.
Well, Carol was worried about you and I told her I would find out.
Oh, that's very nice.
Okay,
Give
so,
her my love.
well, she may be watching here in a minute or
Oh.
two. I don't know.
Here comes the.
All right, well, it's 5 o'clock, 5:03 by my watch. If you're not muted, would you mute? And we'll start the meeting with one of our select people starting us off.
So as Ken said, we'll call the meeting in order at 5:03. The moderator, Ken Chapman, will be running this virtual meeting this evening. He will read each article and then ask the Board of Selectmen if they have any outstanding questions that need to be addressed. Either the selectmen, the town council, or one of the noise ordinance petitioners will address the questions resulting from last meeting. The moderator will then ask whether the board has any amendments. If there are no amendments, he will move on to the next article. Please understand, there will be no additional questions or comments taken from the public at this evening's meeting. Ken?
All right, thank you, Judy. To the inhabitants of the town of Woodstock in the county of Grafton in the state of New Hampshire qualified to vote in town affairs, you're hereby notified that the annual meeting will be held as follows. The date will be April 13th, 2021. That is a Tuesday, just about a month from now. Time, the polls are to open at 10 a.m. to act upon Articles 1 through Article 26 and will not close prior to 6 p.m. This is a business meeting. This is the last of our business meetings, which are being held virtually with the opportunity to attend virtual public hearings via Zoom prior to voting. The location will be at our town hall at 924 Daniel Webster Highway in Lower Woodstock, next to the cemetery where we can recruit other voters, 03293. That was a little attempted humor, folks. After the public hearings, the voters will have the ability to vote on all warrant articles by ballot. You may vote absentee, traditional booth voting, and drive-up voting on April 13th. We will have in place the rule that we will take your temperature before you will be admitted to the interior of the space. But even if you don't want to wear a mask or your temperature is high, we will have a place for you to vote that keeps our workers safe. Article 1, to choose all necessary town officers for the year ensuing. One selectman, one town clerk, one tax collector, one treasurer, one fire chief, one library trustee, one trustee of trust funds, one cemetery trustee, two budget committee members, two planning board members, and three floodplain board of adjustments. Article 2, do you approve of the optional meeting procedures? Do you approve of the optional meeting procedures? The selectmen and the budget committee recommend this. This is a yes, no majority vote. Article 3, the bond purchase, land and building. Oh, excuse me. Article 2, do any of the selectmen wish to address this?
There's no amendments, Ken.
Thank you. Then we'll move on to the next article. Article 3, the bond purchase, land and building. To see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $480,000 gross budget to purchase the land and building located at 459 Daniel Webster Highway, known commonly as Avery's Garage, tax map 115, lot 004, currently owned by the Dalton Avery Revocable Trust, for the purpose of relocating the highway department and for a future expansion of the town office space, and to authorize the issuance of $480,000 of bonds or notes in accordance with the provisions of the Municipal Finance Act, RSA 33, and to authorize the Board of Selectmen to issue, negotiate, sell, and deliver such bonds or notes, and to determine the rate of interest thereon and the maturity and other terms thereof, to authorize the Board of Selectmen to apply for, obtain, and accept federal, state, or other aid, if any, which may be available for said project, and to comply with all laws and applicable to said project, and to authorize the Board of Selectmen to take any other action or to pass any other vote relatives thereto. A 3/5 ballot vote in the affirmative is required. Selectmen and Budget Committee recommend this appropriation. There were some questions asked about this from the last meeting. Would one of the selectmen like to speak to those and see if we have any amendments to this article?
Yes.
think I was
So
gonna-
there's two pieces. One, there was some confusion regarding the language in this article. And so we have town council on the call tonight. So Laura, can you please explain or answer these questions? Why the article is written this way? It is felt that there are 3 different items to vote on in this article: the purchase of the land, or the purchase, the bond, and obtaining and accepting federal, state, and other aid. Second part of that question is, can you please explain why gross budget is part of this article? And third, can you please explain where in this article it gives the selectmen the authorization to purchase? Specifically, why is this authority not written like Articles 22 and 23 that give authority to sell?
Certainly. So bonds are, for lack of a better, more technical term, tricky little buggers. And RSA 33 requires some very specific processes in order to authorize them, and the bonds themselves require a specific certification from council, and that actually doesn't come from our office, that comes from bond council. This article is written the way it's written because that's how the Department of Revenue and bond council like to see it. And I know it's complicated, and it does have 3 component parts, but it really is all about purchasing the building. The other parts relate to how you're going to finance, how you're going to pay for the purchasing of the building. So the first part is, are you authorizing them to buy the building? And I know it doesn't use the word authorize, but it does say to purchase the building, and that is essentially the authorization. And then the other two parts are to finance it, you're going to take out this loan, a bond, and or apply for state, local, and federal grants. Now, some towns already have that general authority. Other towns don't. I honestly don't remember whether Woodstock does or not, but Bond Council likes to have that language in there in case free money shows up. There's very clear authorization for the selectmen to apply for it and expend it. Why is there a gross budget in there? Everything in the warrant is actually, you'll see the gross budget amount. It's the total amount you need. It doesn't all say gross budget, but that's how it's done. It's all done by gross budget. And again, the insertion of those words in this warrant article is something Bond Council likes to see. And I think I adjusted where it gives you the authority to do that, although it doesn't use the word authorize. Really, the whole article is about purchasing the building. So I hope that answers those questions.
Thank you very much, Laura.
Of course.
We are also relating to Article 3. It was asked what the size comparison was for the current highway garage and the proposed highway garage to be purchased. Gil, would you be able to explain that?
Sure. The present building, not including the 3 foot worth of benches that run down along the east side of it, and square footage is approximately 2,262 square feet. The Avery building at this point is actually 2,145 in the main room and another 584 square feet, bringing the total to 2,779 square feet.
Would
So
you run
the
those-
new building is,
Excuse me, Gil, would you say those two numbers again? They didn't seem to add up in my head.
surely, the new building, when the main room is 2,145 square feet. And the second single bay in the new building is 584 square feet, bringing the total to 2,779 square feet.
And what was the amount of space in the current garage?
2,262 square feet.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Gil. Anything else? Is that, we got that, right?
Right, so are there
27,
any,
29.
Excuse
I
me?
Yeah.
heard 2779. It's 2729.
Correct.
all right, thank you,
Oh,
Mark.
that's, you're right. Mark, you're right.
Okay. All right. No, and does the selectmen plan to modify this article?
No.
No,
All
we
right,
have not.
we'll move on to Article 4. To see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the Budget Committee recommended sum of $3,938,916 for the operating budget. This amount does not include any articles voted separately. The Selectmen and the Budget Committee recommend this appropriation. A majority vote is required. Does the board have any amendments to make to this article?
No.
Hearing none, we'll move on to Article 5. To establish capital reserve for the community center, to see if the town will vote to establish a community center capital reserve fund under the provisions of RSA 35-1 for improvements to the community center, and to raise and appropriate the sum of $5,000 to be placed in this fund. Further, to name the Board of Selectmen as agents to expend from said fund. The Selectmen and Budget Committee recommend this appropriation. A majority vote will be required. I seem to remember some questions. So, Selectmen, do you have any comments on this?
Yep. Last week, we received a question relative to the ownership of the community center. The community center is owned by the town of Lincoln. It's been owned since 2005. We have an intermunicipal agreement with them that mirrors the agreement of the transfer station. We share 50% of the expenses, capital improvements, and we receive 50% of the revenues. We have had a capital reserve established for the large expenses at the transfer station for many years. And with this article, we are just looking to establish the same thing for the community center.
Thank you. Do you intend to make any changes to this article?
No,
All right, we'll move on to Article 6, revaluation, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $25,000 to be placed in the existing revaluation capital reserve fund previously established under the provision of RSA 35(1) to meet our constitutional and statutory requirement that the assessments are full and true, which revaluation must occur at least as often as every 5th year. The selectmen and the budget committee recommend this appropriation. A majority vote is required. Does the board have any amendments to make to this warrant article?
no, we do not.
Thank you. Article 7, paving, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $40,000 to be placed in the existing paving capital reserve fund previously established. The selectmen and the budget committee recommend this appropriation. A majority vote is required. Do the selectmen have any amendments to make to this article?
No, we do not.
We will move to Article 8, highway block grant, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $22,349, which is the anticipated grant amount this year to be placed in the highway block grant capital reserve fund previously established under the provision of RSA 35(1) for the purpose of any maintenance, repair, and/or improvements to Class 5 roads in town. The selectmen and the budget committee recommend this appropriation. A majority vote is required. Do the selectmen have any comments?
No, we do not.
Okay, Article 9, the town building maintenance, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $40,000 to be placed in the existing town building maintenance capital reserve fund previously established. Selectmen and the budget committee recommend this appropriation. Any comments from the selectmen on the town building maintenance, Article 9?
None.
All right, we'll move to Article 10, the fire department equipment, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $15,000 to be placed in the existing fire department equipment capital reserve fund previously established. The selectmen and the budget committee recommend this appropriation. A majority vote is required. Any comments on Article 10 from the selectmen?
There is not.
Thank you. We'll move to Article 11, fire truck, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $30,000 to be placed in the existing fire department capital reserve fund previously established. The selectmen and the budget committee recommend this appropriation. A majority vote is required. I remember this article had some discussion and some questions. Were the selectmen prepared to answer?
We answered those questions last week, Ken.
Okay, thank you. So hearing no others, we'll go ahead to Article 12. The library computer equipment expense. Okay. Library computer equipment trust, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $1,000 to be placed in the existing library computer equipment expendable trust fund previously established. The selectmen and the budget committee recommend this appropriation. A majority vote is required. Do the selectmen have any issues with Article 12? Hearing
There's
none.
none.
Okay, thank you. Article 12 will move to Article 13, the Main Street revitalization, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $5,000 to be placed in the existing Main Street Revitalization Capital Reserve Fund previously established. The Selectmen and the Budget Committee recommend this appropriation. A majority vote is required. Does the board have any amendments?
There is not.
All right, we'll move to Article 14, the solid waste facility improvement. To see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $15,000 to be placed in the existing solid waste facility improvement capital reserve fund previously established. The Selectmen and Budget Committee recommend this appropriation. A majority vote is required. Do the Selectmen have any amendments?
We do not.
Article 16. To see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $50,000 to be placed in the existing highway heavy-duty equipment capital reserve fund previously established. The Board and Selectmen recommend this appropriation. A majority vote is required. Any amendments to Article 16?
There is not.
Article 17, Sewer Department. To see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $50,000 to be placed in the existing Sewer Department Capital Reserve Fund previously established. The Selectmen and the Budget Committee recommend this appropriation. A majority vote is required. I do believe this generated some comments.
Those comments and questions were answered last week.
Okay, thank you. Then we'll move on. You seem how I've made notes here, but they're old notes.
You're doing well. Thank you.
All right. Article 18, the Water Department. To see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $50,000 to be placed in the existing Water Department Capital Reserve Fund previously established. The Selectmen and the Budget Committee recommend this appropriation. A majority vote is required. Do you wish to amend that in any way?
There is none.
Thank you. Article 19, record preservation. To see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $10,000 to be placed in the existing record preservation capital reserve fund previously established. The Selectmen and the Budget Committee recommend this appropriation. Majority vote is required. Do the Selectmen wish to amend Article 19 in any way?
No, we do not.
Thank you. We're moving to Article 20, Police Department Equipment. To see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $10,000 to be placed in the existing Police Department Equipment Capital Reserve Fund previously established. The Selectmen and the Budget Committee recommend this appropriation. Is there any amendment to be made to Article 20?
There is not.
Right. Article 21, regulation of noise ordinance. I do know we had some comments and questions about this article last week. Do the Selectmen wish to speak to this article?
Yes.
Okay.
At the last meeting, we received the following questions. Why do some items have specific time applied to them and some items do not? Why are established businesses like a gun range exempt from this? And does this ordinance address engine, braking, or heavy equipment? We also received, and I'm going to share my screen. We received an email later in the week, if you can see that. So I'll pull that up for you folks, and we will read it too. Dear Selectmen, thank you for providing the option of online town meeting for us to discuss these warrant items before voting. I've read through the proposed noise ordinance carefully, and I have a few questions that I'd appreciate if you could address at the next meeting. Section 2, unnecessary noise prohibited. In the first sentence, second line, it states, or simulate. Is that the word that was intended here? Is the ordinance intending to prohibit pretending to make a noise? Section 3, exempted noise. Part B, A special permit, therefore, has been granted in advance by the town of Woodstock. This is presumably refers to section 5, application for special permit exemptions. The phrase related to hardship or otherwise, in the absence of any specific procedure for which such an exemption permit would be granted, seems to be a place of undue burden on the select board for determining criteria to define hardship or otherwise. Have the petitioners provided any accompanying permit application form or procedure that protects against the potential for this clause being interpreted unevenly across a range of applicants? Remainder of section 3. Is there a reason why certain business activities are limited to between 7 a.m. and 10 p.m. while others, farming, gravel removal, shooting ranges, are not? Section 4, examples of prohibited noises. Examples include times between 10:30 p.m. and 6 a.m. not referred to elsewhere in the document. Was the intentions of the examples to use the same time frame as in the listed exemptions above, i.e. 10 p.m. to 7 a.m. as quiet time? On what basis was the decibel rating for measurement of the noise level determined? Please reference, and you can see the website there. Typical daily noise exposure for average adults is 79 dB with a range between 64 to 94 dB. Also reference CDC and OSHA, which both set 85 dB as the noise level considered to be the threshold requiring action to protect hearing over prolonged exposure. The phrase "all noises shall be presumptively prohibited" seems unnecessarily restrictive, particularly at these decibel levels. Who does the measuring? How? With what instruments? Over what period of time? Again, the phrasing "reasonable and prudent standards" seems to place an undue burden on the select board to interpret the terms of this ordinance on a case-by-case basis. I will stop here. I think there are sufficient examples to demonstrate that this proposed ordinance requires further clarification before it can be successfully applied. Stop share that. So, regrettably, the selectmen cannot speak to these questions because we are not a part of creating this ordinance. We did reach out to the petitioners of the warrant article, and unfortunately, there is no one available to address these specific questions this evening. They asked for us to read the following statement. The noise ordinance is based on what is in place and what is being enforced in different municipalities throughout the state of New Hampshire. Over 40 registered voters have supported this warrant article to be on the ballot. The selectmen also supported this noise ordinance. And that is it.
Okay. I'm afraid that's as much as we are able to discuss this article then. We'll move to Article 23.
22.
22, excuse me, I switched the page too much. The authority
We
to
have
set-
no amendments to
Okay,
that.
no
We can't
amendments.
amend it into it.
All right, but I will have to read it. Authority to sell the old fire station, to see if the town will vote to authorize the selectmen to sell the old fire station located at 17 Lost River Road, tax map 106, lot 102. This article is contingent on the passage of Article 3. It is anticipated that the funds received from the sale of this property will be used to offset the debt incurred to purchase the property at 459 Daniel Webster Highway, tax map 115, lot 004. The Selectmen and Budget Committee recommend this. Any, do the Selectmen have any?
I'll discuss it with 22 and 23 since they're the same.
Okay, all right. Authority to sell the old Public Works garage, Article 23. To see if the town will vote to authorize the selectmen to sell the old Public Works garage located at 24 Kankomagus Highway, tax map 107, lot 012. This article is contingent on the passage of Article 3. It is anticipated that the funds received from the sale of this property will be used to offset the debt incurred to purchase the property of 459 Daniel Webster Highway, tax map 115, lot 004. The selectmen and the budget committee recommend this. All right, Cheryl, what do you
Yep.
want?
As stated in prior meetings, deleting these warrant articles is not allowed. And at this time, I would recommend that we not amend these articles, as it would only bring confusion to the article for the voters, and because the voters already have the ability to vote no to this article.
All right, so we will move on to Article 24.
I think you
I-
need Gil to agree to that also, because we have
Oh,
two
Gil.
selectmen on tonight.
Again,
Yeah.
Joe,
Yeah, I'm in agreement.
all right. Article 24, multi-year lease at the Father Roger Bilodeau Community Center to see if the town will vote to authorize the selectmen to lease a portion of the Father Roger Bilodeau Community Center to the Linwood Area Senior Services Council Incorporated for a period of 3 years from January 1, 2021 to December 31, 2023 for an annual rental payment of $12,528 for use as a center for its programs and activities on such terms and conditions as the selectmen of the towns and of Woodstock and Lincoln shall determine. The selectmen recommend this. I'm going to read Article 25, similar topic, before I recognize the selectmen. A multi-year lease at the Father Roger Bilodeau Community Center to see if the town will vote to authorize the selectmen to lease a portion of the Father Roger Bilodeau Community Center to the Lincoln Woodstock Community Child Care Center for a period of 3 years from January 1, 2021 to December 31, 2023 for an annual rental payment of $25,596 for educational and child care purposes on such terms and conditions as the selectmen of the towns and of Lincoln and Woodstock should determine. The selectmen recommend this. And so Judy, Cheryl, do you have any questions?
No, it was asked at the last meeting whether these articles passed in Lincoln, and both of those articles did pass unanimously.
All right. Thank you. And Article 26, to transact any other business that may legally come before this meeting. As I mentioned before, we have things that happen in a community. And one of the things is people die. And so I think we had, looks like 11 of our residents died this past year. And Cheryl's going to post this notice, which brings up a question, if I may ask. Will we have our town reports, the paperback copies, before the meeting?
You absolutely will.
Okay.
They
And
will,
so,
they will start printing after today.
okay, thank you. And so this will be printed in the back.
Yes.
And as always, some familiar names, long time people who worked in volunteer basis for the town. I'm just going to take a moment here to recognize them. Thank you. Then we have people who want to get married each year. And according to my list, we have 10 on it. And this is always a wonderful kind of thing to think about. And so these are the 10 couples there who said, let's do it. And they've done it. So congratulations to them. And finally, marriage and other things lead to people being born in our community. And this year we had 4 births recorded in our community. And you see the short list there. And so congratulations to the families there. And we thank you. This is about all we can do for this meeting, folks. We are encouraged to vote on April 13th from 10 o'clock to 6 o'clock. All questions will be on the pre-printed ballots. You'll receive 2 sheets, as I understand it, one listing the officers that we'll be voting on this year, and the second sheet will be the 25 articles that we can vote on by vote. And please, let's prove that this system, this modified system of a town meeting can work, and that you can vote and encourage anybody who's here. They can start applying for absentee ballots now if they're not going to be around in April, since it's a non-traditional time. We can do it if you're here on the 13th. You can vote in person or from your car, and you will be required, as I said earlier, to wear a mask and have your temperature taken, so as to protect the workers in the building. And I urge you all, as soon as you become eligible, to get your virus vaccines. The public offerings for those shots are happening, and we're working down the list. I think we're just about to hit the 50 and older group, and that should be happening within a week or two, I'm told. And I believe there's going to be another large clinic held sometime soon in the town for that group. So thank you for being here. I guess we will adjourn the meeting, and unless anybody has anything else to say, does our attorney want to tell me to say something else? No.
Yeah, I'll
Okay.
just reiterate, Ken, that thank you to everybody who's come out each week for the last few weeks and joined us in these conversations and this new procedure. I really appreciate your flexibility and your understanding, and we hope to see all of you guys on April 13th.
All right, I just have one question left. There's one person called Betsy. Do we know who Betsy?
Yes.
Yep.
We know who that is.
Okay, thank you. All right. And so thanks everybody for being here, and we'll see you in April 13th, a Tuesday.
Hold on just a second, Ken. I think Laura was trying to talk at one point.
No, she was waving to me, shaking her
okay.
head. No, I didn't need to keep talking, and
Oh,
neither did
okay.
she. Okay. All
She
right.
wants to go enjoy her vacation.
Yes, all right. So
Thank
good
you, Laura.
night.
Of course.
Thank you
Have
all.
fun on your
Laura.
vacation. All right.
Good
Bye-bye.
night, everyone.
Bye. Good night.